We saw that yesterday. So we understood that data transform is a very important tool which can be used to set certain values at the start of a flow or application, and then that can be utilized. We also understood how exactly can we change the the prefix of a work object ID by modifying the py default, and we did that yesterday. Yes or no? Right? Perfect. Today we'll be stepping one step further, and we'll be going and understanding what are declarative rules. So to understand what are declarative rules, let me try to access my drive and create a page for you. Mhm. So we understood what is data transform. Today we will try to understand what are declarative rules. So declarative rules, ideally they roll up under the decisioning category. Let's try to see that. I logged into my application, and then from the developer studio I'm going to records, and I'm trying to expand the decisioning category. Are we able to see anything with declare, declare expression, declare on change, declare trigger? Can you see that, guys? Okay. So what are these? We are going to understand that. So these are the rules which come under decisioning category. If you see, these are rolling up under decisioning category. And let us see what is declare expression. That's the first one. So today we will try to cover what is declare expression all about. To understand this, technical aspect of this thing is slightly, you might find it challenging, but to understand this we'll take an example using which we'll try to see how exactly this will match that particular requirement. All I'm doing is I opened the declare expression rules. I got all the declare expression rules. I want to see what class this rolls up under. Are you able to see my screen, guys? Okay, perfect. So while this is loading, I'll ask you one example. So now you guys shop on Amazon, on Flipkart, and different commerce websites is what you guys shop on. Yes or no? Right. So let us say you want to buy something. Let us say you're buying some five t-shirts and some pants, like five pants. Let us say uh, it's totally 10. So everything is costing $100. So totally $1,000 is what it is. Yes or no? Okay. Now, when you go to the last screen where you will be, or when you go to the cart, will you be able to modify the total? No, right? But if you see, when you modify the number of t-shirts or the number of pants, the total keeps modifying, keeps changing automatically. Yes or no? Automatically, the total is keep on changing. Exactly similar to, let me see if they do have still. They used to have that in previous versions. Come on. Okay, it's not the okay UI gallery UI elements. Okay. So whenever you try to modify the input, the output property is getting modified. Yes or no? When in the Amazon example we are seeing, we see that whenever you're trying to modify the input properties, the output properties are getting modified. Do we agree? For example, if I say, see, if I take this as example, a normal user interface sort of a thing while it loads. Okay, don't need this. So all we have to do is understand the concept here. That's it. So if you see something like this, Now when I change this to 2, the total has to change. Yes or no? In ideally, when you try to buy it online or anywhere, when you try to modify that, the total keeps changing. Do we agree? Yes? No? But the total value, you can't modify it. For example, let us say this is the total value. When I say 2, it becomes 24 point something, whatever is that. This you can't modify. However, you can modify this based on this value. These values are getting modified. The total value is getting modified. Yes or no? For example, declare expression. Let us say C is equal to A plus B. Let us say C is the total field on Amazon. A is t-shirt quantity plus B is trouser quantity. So C is read only here. You can't modify that. However, when you change A or B, C changes. Yes or no? Right? When we change A or B, the value of C changes. This can be achieved in Pega using declare expression. What are we going to do here? So can I call C as target property? This is the target, right? Total is the target. These are the sources from which, based on which this target is getting modified. Do we agree? Right? Target property is getting modified based on change in source property. The source for this guy is A and B, right? Whenever the source values get modified, the target is getting modified. So we can use expressions to define such, you know, such functionalities, and that is the thing. But we will be achieving that through declare expression. Of course, we'll try to see how we can do that. All we can see here is the value of the target property is going to be read only. C is read only. However, whenever A or B changes, C is changing. This concept is also called as forward chaining. Based on one property's change, another property's value is changing. Whenever you are changing the cart value of your t-shirt, the total is changing. It is called as forward chaining. Very important question in interviews. What is forward chaining? Based on the values of source, a target property changes. For example, if you take Amazon's cart, when I try to keep adding uh, products to my cart, the total value keeps changing, keeps modifying. Yes or no? Haven't we seen that? Also, haven't you seen sometimes when you try to give the date of birth, your age is automatically calculated? Though you can't modify that, you have to just give your date property. You can tell 01/01/1992, and then there will be a age number that will be automatically calculated. Haven't we seen such implementations, guys, in our day-to-day life? How it is done, let us try to see that. In Pega, they are saying declare expression is something which we can do, which you can use to do that, and we'll be defining that on top of the target property is what they say. Let's try to do that and see. But before we go there, I want you to understand this is the concept behind, having such changes, because we always wonder how is it happening, right? Today we'll do and see how exactly it is happening. That's the agenda today. Today the takeaway is what are declarative rules and how exactly can we create them. Of course, we'll try to understand which class this rolls up under, right? From the view example, you can see control F px obj class rule declare expressions. Yes or no? Also, this every rule has a pz key, unique key to identify it. See if it is also having. See, Does it have a unique PZINS key? Yes or no, guys? See, very good. So these are some things which you need to remember and verify and learn by yourself, because we have already done that, and every rule will be having that. Every rule declare expression belongs to rule declare expression class. That is a understanding. Perfect. After this, we'll try to implement a scenario. Similarly, how in Amazon the property changes, the same way we want to implement something similar. To do that, let me create couple of properties today under my work class. Let me open the designer, data designer. I'm trying to build something where, in terms of, for example, what do we have? Yeah. So in insurance application, when I give my start date and if I give my term period, the end date should be automatically calculated. For example, if I choose my term of insurance to be 2 years, and if I choose today's date, the end date should be automatically 2024 11/19. Does it make sense? That is something we are trying to implement today. So in our insurance application, there will be term, right? Every insurance application will be having some term. Okay, this is valid for 1 year. I have got 1 year insurance on my vehicle. Yes or no? Don't we buy insurance like that? And the end date also matters, because the day you buy, since then till the next year's that calendar date is when that is valid. If you choose 1 year, if you get for 2 years, same thing is for 2 years. So calculating that can be challenging for user. All that user has to do is choose the start date and choose how many number of years. The application should be smart enough to calculate the end date of that policy. Isn't it similar to the total getting calculated in Amazon? The requirement. Do we agree? Right? Let's try to implement something like that. To do that, I will need, let me open the data designer of my work class. While it is loading. So what I need, let us say, insurance type is something which I need distinctively. So do I have insurance type? I don't have insurance type. Let me add a field called insurance type. This is nothing but a property. At the back end, it will be a property. Insurance type, and this should be of type radio button. I want this to be of the type radio button. Let us see if we have a radio button here. Pick list, let us say. Okay, drop down list. I'll say radio buttons, and the list will have two values. One is what are the different insurance I have. One is personal and vehicle. So let us say if it is a personal vehicle, other choices commercial vehicle, personal vehicle and commercial vehicle. Perfect. So this should give me a property with that. Let us see if it got created. All we have done so far is added one property. Okay. I need agency code and agency name also. Let me create one for that. How do we know what properties have to be created? It is completely depending on what is the use case. In a in a auto insurance application, these are some common properties. You can open any auto insurance application and you will see that. Submit. So I added three properties right now. One to track if it is commercial or personal vehicle. Commercial vehicles are anything like, for a yellow board in India is a commercial vehicle, something which is used for rentals. Personal vehicle is something which you'll be using for your personal use. That's what it is. Agency code and agency name is something which also I need for this particular example. A couple of more properties, like I also need the start date, end date, and the policy term. So policy term has to be like, let us create those as well. Let me add a field and I will say policy start date. Okay, and this has to be a calendar control or a date. So let us see if they have anything for date. Okay, date only. Let us take date only. Submit another, and I will say I need a policy end date. This also has to be a date only, but this will be a calculated or read only value. So date only, and see, once I expand the advanced tab while creating the property, there is a button which tells this is a calculated field and read only. Are you able to see that, guys? Okay, and it is telling use expression is what it is telling. Let us see how exactly we are going to do that. Don't worry about that. Right now I'm checking that this is a calculated field and I'm marking this read only. All I did was I gave policy and date only, and then I'm checking this is a calculated field and this is read only. Submit and add another. I also want the term. Okay, it is asking for an expression. Do I have an expression? Use dictionary, use expression is what I'm saying. Right now let me default it to something, and let me not mark it read only. I'll come and mark it later. Submit and add another. Okay, and I also want the policy term. In this has to be a pick list for me, in the sense I should be able to choose from 1 3 5 7 like that. How many years do you want this for is what it means. The term has to be defined. So let it be pick list and then local list, and then I will say choice 3 5 7 like that. Submit. So all we have done so far is created few properties. We need few properties to be able to achieve this. Same thing we are doing. We are creating the property start date, end date, and these are the few properties which we have created. Perfect. Now that we are done with this, let's try to create some sections like exactly how we did yesterday to incorporate our changes. So let me create one section under work class, or I can right click here on the user interface category, create section. So we are trying to understand what are declare expressions all about. To understand that, we are trying to do this. Let me call this insurance section. Okay, and then create. Okay, perfect. This is part of work class and part of auto insurance. Perfect. Create and open. Of course, once you create, you have to convert this to full section editor and change this to inline grid double. Most of the sections you define will be having this format because this kind of goes well with the UI. That is why we choose this. You can use other formats also depending upon the requirement basically. Grid double, and I want to drag and drop one dynamic layout into this. Want to change that to other and stacked with labels on left. and with the header which tells insurance details. Once we complete this, we'll be able to, stitch the story together. Don't worry about that. The property which I created, I want to add it here. I want to expand the data model. Let me refresh it. Data model, property, a single value property is what I added, which is insurance type, right? Let me drag and drop it here. See, I get the drop down because that's what we created there. Yes or no? Insurance type, personal or vehicle, right? And then let me save this. Let me create another section to hold the policy details. Let me call it. You can create, right click on user interface category, or from the actions here you can go and you can create. Should be creating you a new section. Let me create a policy section. Why I'm showing you this is because you should be knowing how exactly you can fast pace your development. That's what it is. Everything has to be done and learned. You have to relate it to a real-time example and imagine how exactly the user would be expecting. As a user, you should be thinking, what would you want to see here, right? That should be your perspective when you try to develop anything in Pega. What is that you would like to see here? As a user, what would you prefer? Only then you will be able to design a better UI. Structural, drag and drop as usual. Okay, and then other, stack left. I'm not explaining it again and again because I'm thinking you guys have already understood this thing. Yes or no, guys? Okay, policy details. Perfect. Now, what I want the policy term here. Let me drag and drop into this guy. And I also want policy start date. Right. I also want the policy end date. Perfect. So my two sections are ready. Insurance section and the policy section. Of course, I will need another section which will be the agency section, right, under which I want to track the agencies, which agencies do they belong to. Let me create one more section, same thing, create, call it agency section, create and open. The reason why I'm doing it from scratch is so that you guys also, when you practice, you should be doing this. You should, even in sleep, you should be able to design a section. Section designing shouldn't be an issue for you guys. That's why we are doing it over and over again. And this is one of the best practices. Separating sections when you know that these are different entities, and then enjoining them, clubbing them into a wrapper section. That way you will have molecular control over each and every sections, in the sense they are separate. You can apply the settings on top of each and every section individually. Yes or no? You have seen that, right? How we can make a specific section read only and appear and disappear based on certain conditions, right? Haven't we seen that? Like that. And this has to be other stacked with labels left. And let me call this guy agency details. Okay, the agency details, something I want to capture here. Agency code and agency name is what I want here. Let me pull that agency code, right? Agency name. Perfect. Three sections we created. Nothing fancy. Same process, just dragging and dropping properties and layouts, and we have created that. Now, time to consolidate these sections. The main section under which, or the wrapper section under which all these things are going to go. Let me call that as a transaction section. Transaction section, right? Create and open. Submit. And let us, as usual, embed that section here. Drag and drop here, right? What is that section? First section is my insurance details. Can I insurance section? Perfect. I have that. Right. Next is agency. I want to capture the agency. Come here, click on embedded, drag this guy to this. Right. I want the agency section. Perfect. So I got the agency section. Next is my policy details section, right? Policy section, agency section, and this section. Okay, we'll do the same thing. Drag this guy, append it with policy details section. I see all my stuff here. Yes or no? So once the section is created, what's my next step? What's the next step once my section is created? Yes, right. We have to call it in a flow action. Let us create a flow action then. Perfect. So that would be my transaction flow action. How do I create it? Nothing. As usual, go to your process category, right click, create flow action, call it transaction flow action, create and open, and just look up for your section. Very easy. Creating sections, adding to flow action, adding to a flow should be like drinking water to you guys. Save. Done. Flow action is done. Now we should add this to a flow. Yes or no? Our insurance flow should have this, right? How do we see where we can add? We can open the process category and just close this guy, close this guy, close this guy. Process category under flow, I have my customer flow. Yes or no? Where I'm capturing customer information, I'm capturing personal vehicle information and address information. Now, after the customer information is received, I also want to know what is the transaction information. To do that, as usual, we wherever there is a screen where the user has to modify, that means there is an assignment. That should be a no-brainer. You should be knowing that even with closed eyes. Whenever a user has to do something on the screen, that means that is an assignment. Only then a user is going to see a screen and perform an operation. Is that clear, guys? It's exactly to the assignment which you get in school. Assignment means something which the student has to do. Does it make sense? Okay, and then from this guy, link it back to this. See, it will give you an indicator using which you can do, right? Just try to move this further and let's make it look a little better. See, nothing fancy, it's as good as doing paint. If there is any error, right, it won't let you save. Don't worry if there are any issues. If there is any error, it won't let you save at all. This should be my transaction info. This particular assignment is my transaction info. Let us see if that is coming. Transaction information and the flow action I have, I should be mapping that. Let me map that on the connector leaving the transaction information. I can refer to that flow action. What is my flow action? Transaction flow action. I can find that, right? Transaction FA. Perfect. And let me call it as action. Submit. Save this. Your user interface, map it to a flow action, and then we are able to add that. Yes or no? Perfect. So now let us save this and let's try to run this and see what do we have. What do we see here right now? We created a flow yesterday. If you remember, we modified the py default, so the work object id should be a hyphen timestamp followed by the id. See, a timestamp and id. So let us say we'll just submit and go further and see if the transaction information is coming. We just want to see that. Yes, I can see my transaction information. Yes or no, guys? Agency code 1234. And I'll say my agency name is Manjunatha. Okay, Manju agency. And I'm saying it is for 5 years. And I'm saying the start date is 21st. See, end date is not popping up. So I have to explicitly select that. Yes or no? Am I explicitly selecting that, guys? But this doesn't make sense. So what we want to do, we should be able to automatically pop this value. As soon as I choose the term and date, this end date should get populated automatically. Exactly similar to how the total gets populated in your total order. Yes or no? We can do that improvement to this particular screen. Do we agree? Just to explain you that this particular feature can be established, we need to do all these things. But in any application, you will have to reach till this stage to use these rules, and you will be needing these rules very badly, in everything. So let us see. So what we want to do is, based on these two values, whenever these values change, this should be calculated automatically, and this has to be read only. That is my objective. To do that, I am saying we can do it with declare expressions. How can I create a declare expression? Let us go to, where is my data model? Under property. What is the property on which we want this declare expression? If you see, we told that the target property is getting modified, so the declare expression is going to go on top of that property. Why? Because based on any changes on a on b, c is going to be modified. C is going to be read only, but it is going to change whenever these values change. That is why the declare expression has to be defined on that particular property. That property is policy end date. Let me right click on that and see if I can define an expression. Can I define an expression on top of it, guys? Yes, no. I can define an expression on top of this, right? This is the property on top of which I want to do it. So let me define an expression on top of it. All I did was came to the property on top of which I want this declare expression to be created, right clicked and said define expression. Does it make sense? it's already popping up the property dot policy end date, right? Let me say it has to be part of alpha insurance, this thing, and let me say create. You should be getting two windows or two pages where it has description and usage. What is the description and what is going to be the usage, right? Let us try to build that expression first. What should be the expression? We can use the gear icon. If you remember yesterday, to get the current timestamp, we used this sort of expression builder. Did we use this to see what are the methods available for our use? Did we use such yesterday? Right? And we came and we told, okay, we want to use a current timestamp, and we use that. Similarly, today, what we want to do, we want to calculate something for this particular property. What do you want to do? We want to calculate the number of days based on some input properties. For example, what we want to achieve here is based on term and start date, we need the end date value calculated. Is this understood? Is this problem statement understood, guys? This is the problem statement we are trying to solve on the UI today. Yes or no? Right? To do that, there are many functions. Let me look with calendar. See, with calendar, there is something called as add calendar. If I just, all I did was created this declare expression rule, right clicking here, and I told define an expression. It gave me this pop-up. I came here, and here it is telling build your expression. Means what is that you want to calculate? Can you say that? Here is what Pega is asking you. So I'm saying set the policy end date value to what? I have to build that expression. That expression is very easy. It's not with nothing fancy. There is already existing functions. You have to just use them. For example, right now I'm trying to calculate the date. So I can use, there is a calendar function. Using that, I think we can do it. Let us see. Calendar. I just gave calendar here and just hit search. See, you will get a add calendar function. And if you just go over it, it will tell you what does it do. Description. Adds the given years, months, weeks, days, hours, minutes, seconds, and date time passed, and returns the resulting date time as a string. So this should be doing our job. Based on, if you read this, it will tell you the function will add years, months, days, and return a date time string. The parameters will be what will you be passing. I'll show you how exactly we can do it. Once we build the expression, it will start making sense to you. Right now I want to use this function. All you have to do is just click on this plus. See, it came here. Are you able to see that? Add calendar came on your right side. If you hover over it, it is telling, it takes, see, it is nothing but uh, a function. It is taking some parameters. What are those parameters? Like how we pass the status parameter to the activity. Consider this also is like an activity. This method is like an activity, and it is taking some parameters. Parameters are, if you see, the first parameter is the date and the years, and if you have months also you can pass, is what it is saying. I don't have months, weeks, days, and this thing. I just have the date property and the number of years. Yes or no? Those are two things we are getting there, right? If I do a dot and I can look for policy start date, this is the date which from where I want to start, and number of years is nothing but the policy term. Does it make sense? And I don't have months. If I don't have anything for months, I can say 0. 0. If I don't have anything for days, I can say 0. If I don't have any for weeks, I'll say 0. For hours, I don't have anything, I'll say 0. What else is there? Minutes, I don't have anything, I'll say 0. Days, seconds, I don't have anything, I'll say 0. Now I'll close this bracket. Do you understand why I built this? If you see the signature, read exactly what is there on the signature. String add calendar, that is what I am using, add calendar. After that, the bracket starts. In that, they are telling you string space the date. What is the date? The policy start date. That is the property, right? What is the date property we created to capture the start date? Policy start date. When we created our data model, the first thing we did was creating the policy start date, policy end date, agency code, agency name, stuff like that. Here, this function is asking us, based on what date do you want to do this? So I have that date based on my policy start date, comma, then it is telling, if you read the signature here on the left side, if it is, if I have, where I have kept my cursor, you will see string years. In the sense, if you have a year property, yes, I do have the term property where I'm specifying how many years, yes or no? Yeah, but we don't have anything for months, weeks, days, hours, and minutes and seconds. So I am calling it 0. If you have any values for that, you can define that property here and Pega will calculate that for you. Is this expression building understood, guys? This is nothing but your function, your date property, number of your year property, your month property, your week property, your hour property, your minute property, your second property. Why are they 0? Because we don't have any of those values. We are only passing the date property, which is the start date, and the year property. Yes or no, guys? Is this understood? You can test this also. You can give some value and test this. You can say, for example, I can say 20th. Today is the start date. Term is 4 years. See, the resulting will be the corresponding value. 2026 11:20 is what it is returning. It is giving you in a GMT format. Don't worry about that. GMT is Greenwich Meridian timestamp. It is also area in the world where that is followed. In India, we follow IST, Indian Standard Time. In US, they follow EST, PST, and stuff like that. GMT is Greenwich Meridian time. This is that time format. Like you see, if it is day in India, it is night somewhere, right? They have their own timestamp. Like that, GMT is a Greenwich Meridian timestamp. That's it. Nothing to worry about that. But what you have to understand is how this function can result and give you this particular value. Is this understood, guys? Perfect. So we defined this. Now let me submit this. All I did was right clicked on this policy ended property and built the declare expression. Yes or no? Came here and told for policy end date, this will be the value. Perfect. Now let us save this. Okay, let us save this. And let me come to the policy end date here. Actions. Let me refresh this. Do I see the policy end date? See, do you see the policy end date is now telling calculated and read only, which was not the case before. Now it is telling it is calculated and read only, the end date. Perfect. So now let us try to run this and see. Let's try to run this flow and understand. Now it should be giving me a case where when I change the number of shirts and t-shirts and pants, the value should get updated. Won't submit here anything. Let's go further and see if the magic is working here. Personal vehicle. Let me keep that blank. Let me say 5 and let me change the date. I will say, does it make sense, guys? Do we understand how declare expression is working? This is forward chaining. Based on the property change here, the target property is changing forward. This is forward changing. See, 29. I can come, I can change the date also here. You can say 10. See, the total of your Amazon cart is changing based on the number of t-shirts you are modifying here. Yes or no? Based on number of pants I am changing, the total is modifying. You can build like this for anything, right? Now you understand how exactly you can keep a field read only and how you can modify that based on inputs from other values. Just go to the target property, right click on that, create a define expression. You will get to create that declare expression. Here you can build that expression, whatever you want to achieve, you can do that. Are we able to understand what is a declare expression all about? This is a rule which rolls up under rule declare expression class, part of rule declare expression class. The target property keeps changing based on the changes in the source property. Have you worked on declare any declarative rules? Yes, declare expression is something which I have worked on. You have also worked on something called as declare on change. Though you didn't realize, we have already worked on that. Whenever any change is detected, we had to do perform something. I'll show you that also. But today's class was focused on helping you understand what is declare expression all about. How exactly you can modify the target property based on source properties. Declarative rules will help you perform forward chaining, exactly similar to most of the applications which you have been using, which is what we saw here. Yes or no, guys? And this sort of approach is called as forward chaining. What is forward chaining? Based on the changes in the source properties, a target property gets modified. For example, the total property in your cart gets modified based on the items you are adding in the cart. The end date property gets modified based on the policy term and policy start date in your policy. Based on the date of birth, the age gets calculated. All these are examples for forward chaining. Yes or no? Are you guys able to follow? Perfect. So this is what I had for today. Please do practice this well, and try to make sure this concept is very well vetted in your brain. And of course you will be hitting a lot of roadblocks while you're trying to do it. That is the point of practicing, learning by doing things wrong. Okay, thank you for making time for today's class, and we'll be catching tomorrow. If you guys don't have any questions. Hi Harish. Yeah.